Hey class, this video is going to walk through the activities in chapter 2 with Mookie the Beagle. And in this chapter we're going to be taking a close look at the chart of accounts. And the chart of accounts is really the framework for how financial information is organized. A well-designed chart makes it easier to record transactions consistently and generate meaningful reports. But if account names are unclear, or if there are duplicate accounts describing the same thing, it increases the risk of bookkeeping errors. That's why learning how to clean and streamline a chart of accounts is such an important skill. So we're going to make sure that we have a really nice and neat chart of accounts for Mookie the Beagle Concierge. And before we get started though, a couple little housekeeping things. So if you logged into your QuickBooks Online company file, make sure that here at the top left of the screen that you see that your last name, first initial, then Mookie the Beagle, or at least an abbreviation of it, to make sure that you're in the right company, that you're not in Halfra Cyber or you're not in some other company. If you are in a different company and you are logged in, what you can do is click on your settings gear icon and then switch company, and then just make sure that you select Mookie the Beagle from the list there. There are several ways to get to the chart of accounts. One way is to click on the gear icon. You're going to see it here under your company. Another way to get to it is just to type in the search chart of accounts. You'll find it there. Another way to find it is if you go to your apps and then accounting, you'll find your chart of accounts there. It doesn't matter how you get to it, we just need to get there. All right, so if you remember in chapter 1, we set up the company for Mookie the Beagle and for Halfra Cyber without specifying the industry that those companies were engaged in. And what the software did is created a generic chart of accounts for any company here, and what we're going to do is go in here and clean this up. Now you can see that there's at least 76 accounts, because I can see that it's showing 75 on this page and the next button is clickable, so there must be more than 75 accounts. We'll end up with a lot less accounts than 75 when we're done here today. And what we're going to do to start off here is looking at this list here, I can see that the account numbers are not listed. I don't have a column for account number. And account numbers are important. They give your chart of accounts a logic that you can just see at a glance. Typically, assets accounts will be in the thousands or the 10,000s, liabilities in the 2,000s or maybe 20,000s, equity in the 3,000s, etc. So that sorting and finding accounts is easy and fast and consistent. They also act as a sort of built-in error check. If you are posting a transaction and you're trying to make sure that it shows up in an expense account, well, your account number isn't going to start in the thousands. That would be typical of an asset account. So you can sort of use those as a built-in error check. Also, when you're setting up a chart of accounts, you want to make sure that you leave space between the numbers so that your business has room to grow and add to the chart of accounts without renumbering everything. So we want to see those numbers, account numbers on this screen, so we have to go into our gear icon and make a little change in our settings. So we'll go here, we'll go to account and settings, and then this setting is going to be under advanced. So right here we have enable account numbers. It's off, so I'm going to click the pencil icon. I'm going to flip that to on, and then I also have to check this box to show account numbers. That'll make them appear on that chart of accounts screen that we were looking at a moment ago. I'll hit save, and now I'm going to close out of the settings by hitting done. And now if I refresh this page, it should populate with a column for account numbers. And it didn't. So sometimes this happens when you're using a browser-based software program. So I know that I just made that settings change, and probably the reason why it's not appearing is because I need to probably go in and delete my temporary internet files. So I'm going to go to my three dots here, delete browsing history, make sure this time range is set to all time, and then click delete data. Because I deleted those temporary internet files, I have to log in to QuickBooks Online again. And now I'm in, and I can see my list of companies. We're going into Mookie the Beagle. So now when I go to my chart of accounts page, I do see a column with account number here. It is blank because I haven't entered any account numbers yet, but I do have the ability to enter them and view them now. So the first thing that they've asked us to do with respect to modifying the chart of accounts is they wanted us to add an account number for our account called payments to deposit. And sometimes this account is called undeposited funds. This is an account where if your customer paid you in cash or in the form of maybe a check, and you haven't brought that cash or that check down to your bank yet, you would refer to that as payments to deposit. This account gets closed to the checking account typically when you make the deposit. And what we're going to do here is we're going to modify this account. So if I click on the little drop down arrow next to its name, I can select edit, and then I can come in here and type in the account number. They said to give it the account number of 1,600, and then I'm going to hit save. All right, so now I'm seeing an account with an account number, and you can see that it also puts that number before the name, so that you can see that that account has a number attached to it. So we're going to repeat that for some other accounts, and we're going to make a whole bunch of changes here to our chart of accounts. We're going to be adding new accounts, editing existing accounts, making some accounts inactive so they don't appear on this screen, and so on. So the next change per the book is to create a new account. So if I click up top here in the top right, I've got a button for new account, and we are going to call this one checking, and it's going to get the account number of 1001. And here we have to make two selections, account type and detail type. So these are really important because they're going to have an influence on which financial statement the account shows up on. And for this one here, this is a checking account, so we're going to select bank as the account type. And then for the detail type, we have an option for checking right there. And that is all we're going to do for now. So we're going to hit save, and then that account should populate on our screen. It certainly does. So the next task is to create another new account. So I'm going to click on the new account button. And this account is actually going to be a sub-account. A sub-account is a child account nested under a parent account that rolls up into the parent when we prepare financial statements on reports. The sub-accounts are useful sometimes for tracking a specific slice of activity without cluttering up the main account. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to create a sub-account called checking minimum balance. And this is going to be a sub-account of our checking account. So the account type is going to be bank, and the detail type is going to be checking. Now, because it is a sub-account and it falls under that parent, I'm going to click on this checkbox, and then it asks what is the parent account, and I'm going to select checking. And it's only showing these two accounts because we only have two accounts that fall into this account type of bank right now. So checking is the parent, and then I'm going to hit save. And then when the list of the chart of accounts appears again, you'll notice that sub-accounts always have an indentation before their name, so that's a way to visually see that this account is a sub-account right from this screen here. Oops, we forgot to add an account number. Actually, the text did not mention an account number. They have us go in and edit the account to add it. So we're going to click on the drop-down arrow next to checking minimum balance. We're going to edit it, and we're going to type in the account number. They said 1002 for that one, and then also they decided to slightly change the name to minimum bank balance. And now that I got that name changed, I'll save it, and now I can see the account number, and once again I see the name is indented because it's a sub-account. Now the next thing we're going to do is I guess we've decided that we're not going to keep this checking minimum balance account active because it's going to add steps and confusion in some of our day-to-day work in bank reconciliations, cash visibility, etc. And it might invite accidental postings. It's cleaner to maybe track the minimum as a policy alert rather than a live sub-account. So in QBO, we are going to click on the drop down arrow next to that account and make it inactive. And then we're getting a prompt. It's telling us, yes, we do want to make it inactive. And making an account inactive in QBO keeps all the account's history and its totals. So if it had transactions posted to it previously, it would still show up in financial statements and reports, but it would hide it from lists for new transactions, so you won't be able to post to the inactive account while it is inactive. If you decide that you want to use the account again, you can always go back in here and make it active again. And the way that you could see inactive accounts is if you're in the chart of accounts screen here, you click on the settings for the screen and you got a checkbox to include inactive. So that would show it, and then you could click on the drop down arrow next to it and make it active again if you wanted. But we're not going to do that with this account. In chapter 2, the text talks about Excel templates with different worksheets within an Excel file that you could use to keep your reports organized. You don't need to do that. You can ignore the Excel template. If you want to, it's fine, but you're definitely not required to do that. So our next task is to update the chart of accounts so that the asset accounts appear as follows. We want these assets to be showing up. And as I mentioned earlier, it's often a common practice to use the account numbers to group accounts. It's a visual self-check that prevents some kinds of errors. So you can see that this business is designating the 1000s for assets, the 2000s for liabilities, 3000s for equity, 4000s for income, and 5000 for our expense accounts. So that's the pattern we're going to follow here. And we're going to make sure that our chart of accounts appears exactly as is. So if we look at this list, the first one's 1001 checking. We just entered that one. That one's okay. Now the next one is accounts receivable. We haven't messed around with that one yet, so we should go to our list and see if it exists. And it does already, so I can see it here on screen. Now if I didn't see it right here, remember there's multiple pages of these. There's a lot of them to browse through. What you can do up top here is you can type in characters and it will do a search. It says filter, but basically you're searching based on what you type. So I don't type in the full name because it might be abbreviated, but I see, okay, yep, accounts receivables right there. And then since it already exists, I don't really need to create a new one. I could, but it's already there, so I'm just going to save myself some time. I'm going to click on the arrow next to it and edit it, and then I'm going to go back and look at the account number. They said to use 1100 for accounts receivable. And then account type is account receivable, and detail type is also account receivable. It is not a sub account, so I'm not checking that. And then save. All right, so that one's in there. So then the next one they asked us to do was prepaid expenses. And if I type in the word prepaid, I'll see if that exists. Okay, it already does. So I'm going to click on the drop down next to that and edit. And then I'm going to go back to the details here. They said to set that one up as other current assets with the detail type of prepaid expenses, and the account number is 1200. So other current assets, prepaid expenses, 1200, not a sub account. I'm going to save, go back, uncategorized asset. So I'm going to put that in the filter, and there it is. It's already there. Going to click on the drop down and edit it, refer back to the details, other current assets for the account type, other current assets for the detail type, 1500 for the number, other current, 1500, save it. And then I believe we just did the payments to deposit a moment ago. I can verify that, payments, and there it is. It already has that 1600 account number. So our assets right now are matching these. We have all of these. Now we do have some other assets that they are telling us to make inactive. I'm going to do that in one fell swoop for all these different categories. So I'm going to wait on that a second. So now I'm just going to move on down my list. My next section is looking at liability accounts I want to use. The first one is accounts payable. That one I'm sure is in the system already. I'm going to type in the first few characters there and see, oh, yep, there's accounts payable. I'm going to click on the drop down and edit it. We'll refer back to the detail here. So it's accounts payable all the way across for the account type and detail type and name, and then the account number is 2001. Those details match, just need the account number entered and saved. All right, so then the next one is going to be a Visa credit card. I do not believe that one's in the system. I'll type Visa and see if it's there. It's not. So that one I'm going to create a new account for. Visa credit card, and then I'm going to go to the instruction there. So it says the type is credit card and the detail type is credit card. So I'll go there, and it already populated. I guess that was the only detail type possible. And then the account number, I already forgot, 2100, and saved. And then lastly, we've got unearned revenue, and we can do a search for that. We don't have it, so we're going to enter a new one. And we go to the details here. So other current liabilities, other current liabilities. And actually, deferred revenue makes more sense for the detail type than other current liabilities. That's what it is. So I'm going to, that's what the system defaulted to. That's actually more correct. I'm going to leave it at that. And then the account number is 2200. I don't know if the updates page corrected that, but that is more correct there. So save. All right, going back to the next group of accounts, we're looking at our equity accounts now. So we have this opening balance equity. Do a little filter for that. We have it. We're going to edit it. Check the details, equity, opening balance equity, and the account number is 3001. Saved. All right, our next one on the list is owner investments. I'm going to type the word owner, and I found it here, so I'm going to edit that one and go back to the detail. So equity, owner's equity 3003, equity, owner's equity 3003, saved. All right, the next one was an owner distribution account. That is the same kind of concept as owner draws. I'm just going to edit that one, change its name to match the text. And equity, owner's equity were the account type and detail type, and then the account number was 3200. So this is a contra equity account. Technically, it's taken away from the owner's equity whenever the owner withdraws or distributes to themselves. And we're going to save. All right, and then finally we have retained earnings, which is an account used to accumulate the profits and losses the business has made, less the withdrawals. And we got the details here of equity and retained earnings and 3,300. So we'll see if that one's already in there. It's actually not that common of a name to use for a sole proprietorship, but it is in there. And we'll go and edit it. The account type and detail type are fine, but the number's not in there, 3,300. All right, so we have all of our equity accounts taken care of. So then the next one, the next group of accounts is looking at our income accounts, and they're using the 4000s for our income accounts. First one's billable expense income. So type the word billable, see if we can locate it. We sure do. I'm going to edit it, and let's see if the details match. So we got income, service fee income. Okay, yep, that's good. And then the account number 4100. Saved. All right, so the next one is sales. Okay, so for this one, this is going to be the main account that we use for income for this Mookie the Beagle. And there is an account. If I search for sales, I'm not going to find it. Actually, I did find it, I guess, but they use it for sales of products. We are going to to see if there is an account called services. There sure is. So this is a what's called a default account inside of QuickBooks Online, and we won't be able to make this services account inactive later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this services account so that it's called sales. I can rename the default accounts, I just can't make them inactive. If you do, they'll just come back, they'll repopulate, and then you'll have this account that you don't want in there. So I'm going to get rid of it, but the problem is that I already have an account called sales in there. So I'm going to first have to remove sales. I know this is sort of goofy. Wish the book would address this. Maybe the newer edition or the updates page does. But I'm going to make this one inactive. So I'm making the sales account inactive. And then I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to search for that services account, and I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to call it sales, and I'm going to make sure that the details match. So income, service fee income, and 4,200 is the account number. So that just sort of prevents some additional accounts showing up that we can't get rid of later. Alright, so we had, I think, at least just one more income account, uncategorized income. So come up here, do a quick search, and we do have one, so I'll edit that one, check the details, income, other primary income, and 4,400. So change the detail type, other primary income, account number 4,400, and then save. Alright, so now we'll move on to our expense accounts. Now there's quite a few of them, but I think a lot of them are already partially in the system. We have to make some small edits to them. First one, they're calling it advertising and marketing. I don't think I can copy and paste from here easily, so I'm going to go back into QuickBooks and search for it. Okay, oh, actually it's named exactly that, so I'm just going to edit it and make sure the details match. So expenses, advertising, promotional, I'm sure those are correct, and then the account number is 5001. Save that one, move on to the next, ask my accountant. That one does not exist, we're going to create a new one. And we'll get the details here. So expenses, other business expenses, 5,002. Alright, moving on. Contractors expense. Let's see if that one's there. Okay, so we don't have that, but it is essentially the same account as this contract labor. We could make a new one, or we can just edit this one. I'm just going to edit this one. So they called it contractors expense. 5,005, expenses and cost of labor. Expenses, cost of labor, 5,005. Save. Alright, so next one, insurance expense. Do a search for that. Okay, so I do see an insurance, and I do see it is classified as an expense, so I am going to edit that one. And I'll change its name. They have the expense word in the name of this one. And expenses, insurance, 5,010. Alright, that looks good, other than the account number. Saved. Alright, next one, interest expense. I'll type the word interest here. See, okay, yep, we got one that's called interest paid, it's expense. I'm just going to modify the name by clicking the drop down and editing it. Throw the word expense in the name there. And expenses, interest paid are correct for the type and detail type, and then the account number is 5020. Alright, save that. Going back to our list. Getting down there, we got legal and professional services. So I'll do a search for that. Type the word legal. Okay, they called it legal and accounting services. We're going to edit it. We'll change this to professional. And then we'll make sure that the details match up. So we've got expenses, legal and professional fees, and 5,022. Expenses, legal and professional fees, 5,022 saved. All right, office expenses is our next one. Let's see, we'll type in the word office here. Okay, seeing some assets. Okay, here we have an office expenses there. Gonna edit that. Check those details again. So office expenses, office and general administrative expenses, 5,024. Expenses, office and general administrative, that looks good, 5,024. And I'm an anal retentive accountant. The E was capitalized, so make that capital. And save. All right, let's go back and see the next one. Okay, so we got a rent and lease expense. Let's see if that one's in there. I would assume that it is. Type the word rent. Okay, we've got rent and lease expense. I think this one is for rent or lease of a building. So it looks like we have one here that is essentially that. It's just a different name. So I'm going to edit it. And once again, it's fine to add new accounts as opposed to editing them. I'm just save myself a little bit of time by not having to select these drop downs for some of them. So they called it rent and lease expense, and I forgot the account number, 5,028. The type and the detail type were good. We're going to save that one. And then our next account here is repairs and maintenance expense. So I think there's going to be some iteration of that. Type the word repair. Oh yeah, there it is. I'm going to edit that. We'll go back to the detail there. Okay, the capitalized names, added the word expense. We've got the account type as expense, detail type repair and maintenance, 5,029. All right, 5,029. Repairs and maintenance, capitalized the words. They added the word expense to this one. And these type and detail type are fine. One thing that I'm noticing here is that they're not consistently using the word expense in all of them. I would prefer that we would. I think that makes it less likely to have mistakes when we see that particular keyword in the name of an account. Even though some of these are getting a little lengthy, I think that would help. All right, so the next one is taxes and licenses expense. Let's see if that one's in there. So we're going to modify this one. And forgot the name already. It was taxes and licenses expense, and the type was expenses, and the detail type was taxes paid. Taxes and licenses expense, and the account number was 5,030. And I'll save that one. We're almost to the end here. All right, we've got uncategorized. I know that one's in there. Uncategorized expense. I'm going to edit it. And let's see, 5,032 is the account number. And the details here, I believe, are correct. Expense and other miscellaneous service cost. Save. And then finally, we've got utilities expense, 5,040. Should be in there. Utilities expense, edit. The type and the detail type are fine, and it was 5,040. And then they had the word expense in the account name. Save that. All right, so now we've got through that section of all the expenses. So we're almost done. We just have a couple more new accounts to add. We've got a couple of sub accounts. So we already had created an asset earlier called prepaid expenses, and that would consist of things like prepaid insurance, prepaid rent, maybe prepaid advertising, and now we're going to fill in some of those details. So it looks like we have a couple of them here. We've got supplies, which is an example of a prepaid expense. We've got insurance, and then we've got a prepaid rent. So personally, I'd like to have the word prepaid in all the names there as well, not just making a sub, but also adding those names. But we'll be consistent with the text and just use the names that are here. So the first one is supplies. So we're going to add a new account called supplies. the details. The account number is 1210. Account type, this is an asset and it's falling under the prepaids, so it's going to fall into this category of other current assets. And then the detail type, we should have prepaid expenses there. This is a sub account, so I'm going to check that box, and then I find the parent. The parent is that prepaid expenses account. And now I save that. So now I'm going to create another new account. This one is going to be for prepaid insurance, just calling it insurance. The number is 1220, and we're just calling it insurance. And then the account type is other current asset again, and this is an example of a prepaid expense. It's a sub account of the parent account called prepaid expenses. Saved. All right, we got one more sub account for the assets here. We've got one for prepaid rent. So the account's going to be called rent. The account number is 1230. So new account, call it rent, 1230. And the account type, same as the other two that we just did, other current assets, detail type, prepaid expenses. It is a sub account. The parent is prepaid expenses. Saved. All right, so that's it for sub-accounts for assets. Now we have a couple of sub-accounts for expenses here. So what do we got? We've got accounts that fall under our insurance expense. More detail on insurance expense. We got renter insurance expense, and we got liability insurance expense. Okay, so there's their names. Renter insurance expense 5011. Create a new account. Renter insurance expense 5011, and then let's see, expenses. I already knew that, expenses, and detail types insurance, and then it is a sub account, and the parent is the insurance expense 5010. There we go. And actually, it looks like we had some that we probably could have modified to use, but we're just going to roll with creating a new one here. All right, and save. And then finally, I'm going to do another new account for that last sub account. It's called liability insurance expense 5012, and account type expenses, detail type insurance, and it is a sub account of the parent, which is insurance expense. And once again, there were subs under there that probably would have liability insurance, but we'll just make our own. Doesn't matter. And we'll save that. All right, so I think that's it. Yep, now they're having us run the report, and our report should match this screenshot basically. So ours doesn't though, because we did not make any accounts inactive that were already in the system. So I'm going to remove the filter, so there's nothing up here in the filter box. So now that I've removed that filter, I'm seeing all of the accounts, and I have entered all of the required accounts per the textbook for Mookie the Beagle. But I skipped over the step of making accounts that we weren't using inactive, and that was on purpose because that can be a little tricky. So what I want to make sure I do here is I want to put the accounts in order by account type. So you can see that they're in that order right now because of this up arrow. So if I click on that again, it'll put a down arrow. I want to make sure that I see they're organized by account type and the arrow is pointing up. And then basically I got my assets up top here and liabilities next and so on. And what I'm looking for when I scan down the list is I'm looking at these accounts that don't have a number, and I'm looking for any of them that are sub accounts. And I see the first one I see is long-term office equipment, it's the parent, and there's several subs. And the thing is, you have to make sure that you make the parent inactive before you do the subs, or you won't be able to make the parent inactive. So all I need to do here, since long-term office equipment's the parent, is click on the arrow next to it, make that one inactive, confirm that, and then all those accounts underneath of it now have been removed out. Now I'm seeing them still because I have the inactive accounts showing. I'm going to uncheck that a second, and yep, they're gone. So then I just basically keep scrolling down my list. I'm not going to remove anything else until I see another parent with subs. So I see another one here for personal expenses. I want to make sure that I remove the parent from the list by making it inactive. And I just keep doing that down the list. We got personal health care, make that one inactive. And seeing what else I see. All right, a cost of goods sold, make that inactive. And then we have all these sub accounts under utility expense. These won't be a problem because we're not removing the parent, so we should be able to remove those. It's really the parents that become a problem if they have sub accounts, and we want to remove both the parent and the subs. We have to remove the parent first, but we're keeping utility expense, so we're good there. Same thing with office expense. It had a bunch of sub accounts. Same thing with legal and professional. It looks like, sorry, I'm scrolling up there. I just make sure I didn't miss anything. Looks like we got everything on this page, so I'm going to flip to the next page. And then I go to the top here, work my way down. So employee benefits has a bunch of sub accounts. We're not using that. Make that inactive. Same thing for general business expenses. Make that one inactive. Meals. Make that inactive. Payroll expenses. Getting down the list here. Supplies. Taxes paid. Travel. Other income. Home office. And then finally, it looks like vehicle expenses has a bunch of sub accounts. So I'll make the parent inactive. And then I am at the end of the list. It does not go on to another page. So now what I can do is I'm just going to go back to page 1 here. I'm going to put all my accounts in account number order. So now that I have all the accounts with numbers assigned to them listed at the top of my list here, I'm going to scroll down until I see the first account that doesn't have a number attached to it. Basically, all these accounts that don't have numbers attached to them are going to be made inactive. And rather than click on them individually, there's a faster way to do that. So I'm going to click on the first couple here, and then I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of this page. I'm going to hold the Shift key on my keyboard down and click on that last one, and it selects all of them in between just a little bit faster. And then rather than click on the right of each one to make them inactive, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up to batch actions, and I'm going to select make inactive there, and then I'm going to confirm. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the accounts that remain here. It looks like the reason why I have more showing is because we had multiple pages. So I'm just going to click on the first one, hold Shift, click on the last one, and once again make them all inactive here really quickly. So now that I've done that, I have all of the required accounts listed, and I've removed all the extra accounts. And I'm going to click my number column here to put the accounts in ascending order. So I have my assets up at the top, and I have a nice list of all the required accounts for this company. Now you might be thinking, wow, that was a pretty long video just to enter a bunch of accounts, a bunch of data entry. Isn't there a faster way to do that? And you're right, there is. If you are on the chart of accounts screen in QuickBooks Online and you click on this drop down arrow next to new account, you can select import. We can upload an Excel or a CSV file to automate this process and bring in a whole bunch of accounts at one time. And to do that, we got to make sure that the Excel or CS file is formatted in a certain way. So they gave us a sample here that we can take a look at. So I'm just going to click on that a second, and then I'll take a look at the way that it's organized. So okay, so we've got columns in this file for account number, account name, type, and detail type. So we have to make sure that our Excel or CSV file has those columns exactly in that way, and they have to be in the first row of the CSV file. So the others are just examples of accounts. We don't have to use those, but basically we have to have our columns set up in this way. So now that we know that the way that that looks, what we could do to really speed up the process for you, if you wanted to, for Hafra Cyber, is if we go to the Project 2, Hafra Cyber here. Let's see if I can get in there and find the spot. So here we're doing the same thing. We're adding, updating, and making a bunch of accounts inactive. And then we get down to the end here, and I think they gave us a screenshot. They sure did. So what I would do is I would go down to your search in Windows and pull up your snipping tool and take a screenshot. So to do that, I should be showing you how to do that. You hit the new button, and then you draw a box around the area that you want to take a screenshot of. And then you can pull up, what I would do is pull up a generative AI tool like ChatGPT. And I have that here. And I'm not using the paid version right now. I'm using the free version. I did sign in to be able to do this though. So I wrote a pretty good prompt. I wrote, I want to import a chart of accounts into QuickBooks Online. I need a CSV file with the following columns: account number, account name, type, and detail type from the sample that we looked at. From the attached screenshot, can you help me create this CSV file? So now that I made a copy of that screenshot, I can just paste it in here and then send my prompt, and the chatbot should create a CSV file for me. And there we go. We've got a file, so I'm going to download that, and I'll take a quick look at that. There it is. It looks like it's set up. And then I'd want to go ahead and double check all these details against the screenshot to make sure that they're all valid. And assuming that they are, I can close out of that file, and then I can go into, it's asking me to save because I expanded those out. I don't need to save that. Now I can go back into QuickBooks and go into Hafra Cyber Company. So to do that, you click on the gear icon. You can switch companies over. You're going to see the list of all our companies here. There's Hafra Cyber. All right, and then we can pull up our chart of accounts by typing chart in the search, clicking the arrow next to new account, selecting import. Then I have the CSV file already, so I'm going to browse for it. There it is, QuickBooks chart of accounts, open that up, and then I'm going to hit next. It's confirming that the online fields in QuickBooks match the fields in my CSV file. I've got green check marks, so we're good to go. And I'm seeing all the details that we just saw in that CSV. So now I'm going to hit import and see what happens. Okay, so some of them couldn't come over, and the reason most likely is that these accounts were already in the system. We're going to have to go through and make edits to the accounts that existed, because accounts receivable, that's a pretty common name, accounts payable, and so on. So these are already in the system. I'm going to close out of this screen. Yes, to exit without saving, I already have the accounts in there. And what I should see now is I do have some accounts that have numbers attached to them, but I'm not seeing the numbers. So the reason why is because I haven't turned that setting in for Hafra Cyber yet, so I need to do that. That's in the project too as well, where you have to go into the settings and turn on the account numbers. So I guess I'll do that right now. So hitting the gear icon, account settings, advanced tab, make sure that the enable account numbers is turned on, hit the pencil to do that, flip the switch, check the box for show account numbers, save it, go back to your chart of accounts. It might not show right away, and once again, that's a temporary internet files issue. So what I have to do to make them show now is delete my temporary internet files. So I'm going to the three dots in Chrome, delete browsing history, changing this to all time, and then hitting delete. Because I deleted my internet history, I had to sign back in. And now that I'm back in, I do see that it worked, at least partially. Some of the accounts, like I said, didn't get imported because they already existed. So for those like accounts receivable, I'm just going to have to do what I just did in the video and edit them and put those account numbers in. So there is a little bit of a way to speed that up if you want to. You don't have to import if you don't want, but I just thought I'd show you that little nifty trick there with ChatGPT, and a little bit of computer vision might speed up your life a little bit. All right, so make sure you do the activities for Hafra Cyber as well as Mookie the Beagle in your company. I'll be looking. You're going to have to respond to a bunch of questions inside of Connect related to your activity in Hafra Cyber. There's also a section in the textbook that you're definitely going to want to read through. And what they're going to do in that section is talk about the different account types and their definitions. It's actually a little bit of a review of our Principles of Accounting 1 course, so our financial accounting course. So if you go to your online textbook here, I believe it was in section 8 here, 2.8, Accounting Essentials. So Here we're talking about the financial statements and the chart of accounts, and then we talk about the different types of accounts like assets, liabilities, and equity, and then we get more granular with subtypes there. So make sure you read through that section. That's really important stuff. All right, if you have any questions at all, please reach out.